Did you know that according to the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics, West Virginia has more drug overdose deaths per capita than any other state, which was 52.8 out of every 100,000 residents. This is 155.7% higher than the national average overdose death rate. As I stand here in front of you, I want you to think of something powerful. Imagine hitting your complete rock bottom and not knowing what to do. Losing everything and everyone you love behind one bad choice, one irrational decision, and your life has taken a turn for the worst. I have, and it cost me everything. My livelihood, my family, and ultimately my freedom. But with the help of Narcotics Anonymous and my counselors, my sobriety has been consistent, and I am about to hit my 3.5-year mark. This is what I'm here to talk about today. There have been many challenges that hinder an addict's success in recovery, as well as in people who work in recovery. As you go through those with me, you will see no one's success is linear, and not one person's story will be the same as the next. I've even had the opportunity to sit down with someone who struggled with their own addiction, then became someone who worked in the field of recovery to be part of the solution, which faces many challenges as well. There are many factors that go into what causes an addiction to plague someone's life. It can be from family influences, friends, abuse of a prescribed medication, depression, and many other things. Through my research, I have found many intriguing facts that I am going to share with you. I'm not going to give it all away right now. You just have to keep listening. Now, the opioid crisis is at an all-time high. In an interview on NBC with Charlie Mueller, not only has fentanyl taken over, but it is now being mixed with another drug named xylazine. Xylazine was first marketed as a large animal tranquilizer. It is now being mixed with fentanyl and heroin. And in the event of overdose, Narcan cannot revive the patient, as this drug is not an opioid. According to CDC, it is present in 1 out of every 9 overdoses. It is also present in more than half the dirty needles tested for what drugs are being used intravenously. And due to this addition into the world of drug use, most patients are failing to even complete the first steps of treatment trying to get sober. This directly correlates to some major challenges facing substance abuse recovery. I spoke with Ms. Melvin the other day about the challenges in this field, and although this wasn't discussed as much, it would explain why recovery is becoming overloaded with patients, as are the streets with addicts that have nowhere to turn. They are consistently failing because they are trying to treat an addiction to something that isn't meant for use on humans. There is no course of treatment, as most medicines used to treat addiction focus on the opioid receptors. As this drug isn't an opioid, treatment is essentially useless. Opioid abuse stemming from doctors abusing the easy access to drugs through pharmaceutical companies. As I took the time to look up facts and statistics as it relates to the West Virginia, it was startling to see how much of it stemmed from doctors and pharmacies abusing their access. There was a local doctor right here in Huntington that abused his ability of getting these medications, and although he claimed it was only for personal use, the number reflected otherwise. According to the DEA's investigation, and according to the facts that were discovered by this investigation, a pharmaceutical company based out of New York, in a time span of less than 4 years, distributed 25,400 hydrocodone pills and 3,600 Xanax pills to said doctor. It single-handedly fueled the opioid crisis in 5 states, including West Virginia. They ignored all the red flags to make a profit. Another notable piece of information discovered at this time was a book written about the abuse of pharmacies in this state, fueling the crisis. The title of this book is Death in Mud Lick by Eric Eyre. This book discussed a pharmacy in Kermit, West Virginia, that distributed 12 million opioid pain pills in 3 years to a town with a population of 382 people. Although there are hundreds of articles published and studies done, this will help answer the many questions that come with the stigma of being an addict. Many people becoming addicts on their own, they make one bad decision to use. Others, it happens from the neglect of a medical professional, which was shown in just a few instances. Some people go in for a procedure and end up relying on the recovery medication to a point that the addiction forms. Between the addition of new drugs and the abuse of medical professionals in different capacities, this poses a series of major challenges for those working in the field of substance abuse recovery. After sitting down with Miss Melvin, I had the opportunity to learn of some of the challenges she faced while working in the field as a peer recovery support specialist. There were many things she touched on that haven't been stated so far, but after doing the research I did and speaking with her, it is easy to see where they play as a significant role. There were a lot of the two most widely used ones are methadone and Suboxone. Suboxone came in a strip and is taken by mouth, but has been advanced into the extended release injection. This goes by the name of Sublocade. Both Suboxone and the injection are made from the same medication, buprenorphine. With every advancement comes a setback, though. With these medications, there is still potential for abuse. Methadone is a synthetic opioid that is used to treat opioid addiction. That in itself displays the potential for abuse. The medication is usually dosed as a single dose, administered at a clinic that specializes in medication-assisted treatment. But there comes a time in this treatment when the medication is dispersed and left to take home. This is when abuse becomes a risk factor. Once it's left to the person to do the right thing, more often than not, the person doesn't follow the proper procedure and dosing, and the treatment gets abused. In summary, the field of substance abuse recovery is facing challenges every day. Some that aren't able to be contained, and some that are. It went from the introduction of different drugs to the crisis, with the help of people who should have been there, the ones to raise a concern instead of abusing it, to the inclusion of manufactured drugs that are being obtained illegally, to the introduction of animal tranquilizers that can't be maintained in an overdose. Finishing the abuse of the medication used to treat addiction, it is a constant learning curve for everyone involved, and it leaves many in the field with the feelings of failure as the crisis cannot be contained. On top of all the data presented, here's another stat that was a little mind-blowing through all this. West Virginia's data presented to have the highest drug use in the county. About 100,000 people died of an overdose related to opioids or stimulants between June of 2022 and July of 2023. About 1,500 of them in West Virginia alone. It is an epidemic that is evolving on a daily basis, and the fight against it is increasingly failing.